So just push it. Oh, sorry, start. Yeah, I want to do a video on the 1970s. The 70s in Los Angeles was, I think it was about commercial weed. I remember the first time my brother came home with some bowl. We were selling commercial weed, and my mom told me that it was some big gang members. They was called the Slawsons, the Businessmen, and the Avenues. I wanted to talk about those guys for a minute. The first time I actually ran into some businessmen or Slawsons was at Bethune Park. They had a guy named Big Merv. Big Merv was a big 6'6" guy with big muscles. And they told me that Big Merv was a part of the, I think it was the businessman or the Slawsons. And I think the businessman was over there by South Park, and the Slawsons was over there, I guess, towards Slauson and Compton Avenue, whatever. It kind of spread it like all over the city a little bit, because I had a guy on my street, his name was Big Melvin. Big Melvin was one of the biggest dudes I ever seen muscle-wise. And right before the Crips and the Bloods really took off, the Slawsons and the businessmen, the Nation of Islam, and a few people in the community was trying to have peace in the community. And I had seen a lot of the brothers in my neighborhood that was businessmen and Slawsons. And right around that time, it was a big explosion from heroin. Because I used to see the heroin lines fall off into my neighborhood in my backyard. My mother bought the house on 68th and Central, and she came from Louisiana, and she was trying to hustle in LA. I know Melvin used to come down to the house all the time and talk about the past, and Melvin had been in and out of prison all his life. But to get to the subject of the 70s, I lived in front of Goodyear tires. Goodyear was on Central between Gage and Florence. Firestone was between Alameda and close to Watts. Now, when you had a 40 or 50,000 guys work at the Goodyear, they had 3 shifts, morning, noon, and night shift. And we had an opportunity to be able to talk to a lot of the guys that worked those shifts, because we had a lot of Bookie joints in front of our house, in front of Central. Central was the main hub in the 70s. It went all the way down from First Street all the way to Watts Stack, which is Will Rogers Park. And on Will Rogers Park, they used to have a lot of big concerts and everything. But to make it unique in LA, we had a thing called WLCAC. I forgot what it really meant, but we used to go up there, and they used to have a thing called the Watts Parade. And they had some things called the Ringling Brothers, but they was black. They used to be doing tumbling on this trampoline right by Watts, the Bounty Hunters neighborhood. But we used to go to that parade, and they also had a parade down there on Vernon and Central. And we used to go downtown to buy our clothes. And I used to go to Hunting Park and buy my clothes. But a lot of guys used to go on Vermont. But to make this story about the businessmen and the Slawsons was, we had a thing on 68 called the Bookie joints. The Bookie joints was a big world to me, because when I was young and I ran around the corner to this liquor store, I would always see these guys in tailor-made jumpsuits, and all of them on Bookie joints. You had one right there on Central, it was called CAG, had one. You had another guy named Bob. You had another guy named Solomon. And these guys are some of the richest guys I ever seen in my life. I think Solomon had owned some property on Cocoa Street inside of the jungles. Now, Solomon they had some of the most flashiest Eldorado Cadillacs, 70 Cadillacs I ever seen. all of the guys over there wore these tailor-made jumpsuits, and they had bookie joints where you go bet horses at night harness racing and day harness racing, day racing. And they used to have big gambling over there because when you gamble, you get to eat free. And when you eat free, you get to be in the gambling joints. And I used to be what you call a runner. And I used to run to the liquor store and get liquor for the big gambling guys. That was the first time I ever seen Keno. Keno was a big gambler on South Central, and he used to always want to gamble with the big guys. And when you gamble with the big guys, you can win a lot of money. And then you would have the bookie joints would throw gambling parties. And they would throw gambling parties because that's where you get the money. You had guys coming from all over Los Angeles to be into the gambling, to the big dice games. And one casino was right there. One gambling shack was right there, which I worked in. It was Solomon's. Solomon's was one of the richest and the wisest men I ever met. And he used to be right there on Central. And his bookie joint, he served food, and he had the cleanest Cadillac. When I was younger, and I would walk around the corner and see a lot of these Cadillacs, that's when I knew that I wanted to be somebody that was real fly, that had an influence on my life, was these bookie guys that had bookie joints. And one of the guys' name was Brother. Brother had a bookie joint with pool halls. These places had pool halls and bookie joints, and you go in and you lay your bet, then you would go to work and come back and see if you win or lose. But the big dice games will be thrown inside of the bookie joint different nights and different days, and these guys was real good gamblers. That's why I used to learn, that's how I learned how to bet horses, and I learned how to gamble. But when we was there in the gambling shacks, what we would do was, we would always be a little hustle. We would stand out in front of the store, and we would ask for change, or we would sell commercial weed. And one night we was up there, and this limousine Cadillac pulled up. And when we went up to the car, and we was like, hey man, what's going on? He said, if anybody can guess my name, I give you $20 a piece. So one of my brothers said, he said, man, you look like Al Green. He said, nah, I ain't Al Green, man. He said, close though. Then he said, I'm Marvin Gaye. I said, Marvin Gaye? Man, you be singing, what's going on, man? And he said, look here, man, I'm gonna go in the store and I'll be back. I'm gonna give y'all each some money. So Marvin Gaye went into the store, and that was the first time I had Crip walk in front of a celebrity. Marvin Gaye came out the store, and I was Crip walking right on the sidewalk, and he was like, hey man, what is that dance called? It's called the Crip walk. And he was like, man, that's a nice dance, man. But he was like, man, who invented it? I said, well, it came from the Crips of Los Angeles. I think Raymond Washington and a few guys invented it. And later on, I see Micheal Jackson. He was on a video shoot with some Crips, and one of the guys' name was Boxer. Boxer was a guy on the video with Micheal Jackson throwing up the Crip sign, and Boxer, I think he's from 8'9". And then another time, we had an opportunity to be in one of Micheal Jackson's videos. I think it was Beat It. And I think Rap was in the video, Cat C's, a few of the brothers, but I remember we met up on Florence and Hooper, and a lot of brothers went with Butter to the studios to film Beat It, or I think it was Beat It, or one of those videos, but I know a bunch of the homies was in those videos, and I know Butter was responsible for it, and I know that Mark Blue and a lot of those brothers, they ended up getting a lot of time right after that. But Micheal Jackson, man, he took pictures with the homies and everything, and it was a big thing over there on South Central because I seen Venus Williams on the Wilmington Crip walking, and that was one of the first times I seen Romeo and Bow Wow. They was Crip walking before, and this Crip walking went all around the country, and I noticed that a lot of people learned our dance, and then they even came up with a thing called the beat walk, I think. But the sea walk is a special dance for us because it's spiritual. And when something's spiritual, it really takes effect of somebody's body. And when your body is in motion with the Crip walk, you have a real spiritual outcome. That's why when you see a lot of people Crip walking,